How could the relationship that Avraham had with his nephew Lot go wrong? That's a real question. All of a sudden, in the middle of the parsha, everything falls apart. In the beginning of the parsha, Avraham leaves Haran, he leaves his birthplace, and God says to him, Hashem says, Avraham, go on a journey. I want you to go La'aretz Asher Areka, I want you to go to the land that I will show you, and you will see that land is going to become yours, you're going to become great. And with Avram goes Sarah, with Avram goes all of the converts that he converted to monotheism, that he converted and that Sarah converted, and all that Avram has, which didn't seem to be that much at that point. And with them goes Lot, Avram's nephew. And the Torah stipulates a number of times that Lot would follow along, would trail along with Avram. And we know from that which we see later in next week's parsha that there were many things that Lot did learn from Avram. So what went wrong that caused the separation in the middle of the parsha, that Lot is now going on his own and Avram is going in one way and Lot is going in the other way? So the Torah explains to us, Vayihi Riv, there was an argument between the shepherds of Avraham and the shepherds of Lot. And Rashi, Chazal elaborate on what this Riv, what this argument was about. The shepherds of Avram were very, very careful not to let their animals graze in pasture that did not belong to them or was not of the public. The shepherds of Lot allowed their animals to graze on any pasture. It was irrelevant as to who it belonged to. So the shepherds of Avram point out to the shepherds of Lot, they say, look, you maybe you don't realize, but you can't do this. You can't just allow your animals to graze anywhere. This land that you're allowing them to graze on doesn't belong to you. That's stealing. And here was the first problem. Lot's shepherds answered. They had an answer for Avram's shepherds. They said it's not stealing. You see, because Avram doesn't have any children. God promised the entire land of Israel to Avram. That means that Lot is the inheritor of Avram. And therefore, the entire land also belongs to us. And that's why we allow our sheep and our various animals to graze here. So Reuven Rozovsky explains that at this point, Avram says, Lot, you go one way and I'll go the other way. I don't want to fight with you. We're family and we shouldn't fight, but we can no longer be together. Why didn't Avram say, okay, let's work it out. Let's make sense of this. Let's have a discussion. What did Avram sense at that moment that made him say that I have to be away from Lot, that Lot can no longer be within my camp? So he explains as follows: how a person responds when they are given critique is the key as to whether that is successful, and it says a lot about the individual. When someone is told something, when someone is given constructive criticism in a respectful fashion, and I really stress respectful fashion because in our society we've forgotten about that word many of times, respect. When we speak to someone in respectful fashion and we criticize them or we give them constructive comments, which is really sincere because we want to share it with them, not in front of other people, but privately. And when a person hears our comments or our constructive criticism, how do they respond? Do they respond by saying, I didn't really think of it that way, or acknowledge that perhaps they were mistaken? Or do they respond by saying, I have an answer? So Rav Reuven Grozovsky says, Avram saw right away that the fact that the shepherds of Lot responded, we have an answer. We have a reason why we did this. Right away, Avram understood that Lot was no longer at a stage where he was growing and learning from Avram and Avram's camp, but instead now he had learned to the point where he no longer wanted to perfect his character traits and grow. And because of that, Avram says, I don't want to fight with you. We're still family, but we can't be together. Because the entire edifice of Avram and Sarah and their camp and their life was about personal growth that we strive for in our lives. And I think we have to ask ourselves the question. When someone gives us sincere, personal, one-on-one, constructive criticism without embarrassing us in any way, and we sense that it's really sincere, how do we respond? Do we make excuses? Do we explain things which we may think to ourselves are not really a good excuse? Or do we deal with it and say thank you to the person for pointing something out to us? That's the answer. When Avram saw that Lot no longer wanted to grow, he said, there's no room here for me and you to live together. I'm all about growth. May we be zocha in our lives, that we also look at everything that we are involved with and continue to try to grow, that at certain points, when we're offered constructive and personal criticism by someone, that we take it with a smile and that we try to improve ourselves and our character traits throughout our lives and learn this lesson from Avram Avinu. Thank you for listening and have a good Shabbos.